Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Picard Season 2 Episode 3 Assimilation. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Picard, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Picard up to Season 2 Episode 3. If you have not seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, this episode was okay, I guess. So it begins with basically Eleanor dying. So I still contend that they should have just traveled back in time at the end of the previous episode, but they had to spill it over with this ridiculous cliffhanger where the 709's husband beams on board and like dawn, and they resolve it like pretty quickly, killing that dude and his henchmen. So, and then the ships are fighting, and then they it looks like they're in trouble and they're gonna get destroyed, but then the Borg Queen takes over. Ooh. And she destroys the ship, and then they try to create some tension with Eleanor dying, as I said, where he's dying in sickbay, and Raffi needs more power, but the Borg Queen is siphoning the power for herself, and so Raffi kind of resents the Borg Queen for doing this, and Eleanor dies. Now, Raffi asks Jurati if they restore the timeline, will Eleanor come back to life? Will he be alive again, or is the death permanent? And she says, well, I don't know. And so, here's my thoughts on that. I hope that he does come back. I hope that he's not dead, because he was an interesting character that they haven't developed yet or done much with. And so if they killed him off like this, I would be very pissed off. So he needs to come back. I'm sorry. But he does. So I don't know. So I wouldn't be happy. And to me, it seems like a kind of plot contrivance in order to create tension with Raffi and get her all depressed again, because she was all like recovered in the first episode. And I actually liked her that way, where she felt like a normal Star Trek episode. But no. We can't have that. We have to have her go back to her season 1, very mopey, depressing, and upset about everything kind of matter. And I didn't like that. Be honest, I'd actually prefer the way, and so it didn't seem like plot contrivance too. And especially if they do bring him back, which, as I said, I hope they do. But it would make it prove it to be even more plot contrivance that they just killed off. I just don't think he should have died in this episode, just period. I feel like the writers didn't know what to do with him in the 21st century, so they killed him off so they wouldn't have to deal with him being there, and then they're going to bring him back later. I mean, they could have just wrote him off like they did with Soji, because obviously they didn't want her around anymore, so she's just not going to be in the season. But as I said, they wanted to have this contrived reason to make Raffi all edgy and upset again and pissed off with everyone in order to create tension among the crew, which I don't really need, to be honest, especially when it's done in such a contrived way. So that's all I think that is. I really don't think that he is dead, and in fact, if he is, I'll be very upset. So, I mean, he's dead, but not really, alternate timeline, he'll be back. Anyway, so, first let me talk about this whole confrontation between Jurati and the Borg Queen. I didn't really mind the Borg Queen in the first 2 episodes, but this episode I was kind of reminded of how I don't like the Borg Queen. Especially when they were playing like the First Contact music. And, I will say I thought it was cool when Jurati was like, that scene where they were like joining together and she was worried about getting assimilated. And it turns out Jurati was like tricking her the whole time and to steal the information from her. I did like that. I did think that was cool. But then, like, other scenes with the Borg Queen when she was like, "You've done the most dangerous thing. You've impressed me." I'm like, that's stupid. I'm sorry. And just the whole way I just wish they didn't have the Borg Queen at all in this. And I don't know. I could have done with that. And as I said, like in the previous episodes, the reasonings for including her felt very contrived to me as well. Like, oh, we need her to do these competitions because we don't have a Spock. Bullshit. You have 7 of 9. And someone in the comment section brought up, oh, well, she's human now, not Borg. I don't care. She's still 7 of 9. She can fucking do the compilations. And in fact, I think any like trained science officer could do it. You don't need a Vulcan. Oh, this makes Spock sound like this superhuman genius, which I hated when the original series portrayed him as that. He's just a really smart guy, and they can have other really smart guys too. Anyway, if that fucking Soji there, they could do it. But anyway, I'm sorry. It's her whole bringing in the Borg Queen. I'm starting to like it less and less. The only thing I'm sort of hinging that could save it for me is that opening in the first episode where they had that weird Borg ship coming to see him from another dimension, and it said, "Picard, we need your help," which I want them to pay that off in a satisfying manner. If it turns out to be, oh, that's just the Borg Queen trying to trick you into assimilating humanity, then I'm really not going to like that. I hope that they're wrong, that the Borg Queen was actually calling out for help, and maybe this time-related thing has more to do with why the timeline has changed. It wasn't just like Q randomly decided to fuck with the timeline. As the two end up being completely unrelated, again, I'm not going to be very happy with that. So, we get our characters interacting with the 21st century, 2024, which is the same year that Sisko went into the Sanctuary District, which apparently they tried to like sort of Easter egg by having this homeless camp and saying that's the Sanctuary District, but that's not the same thing. But they could say, oh, the timeline was changed or whatever to make it the Sanctuary District slightly different than what we've seen before, which, you know, whatever. I don't really care about that. I wish they would have done an actual like Sanctuary District as portrayed in past tense, but they just wanted to do a silly Easter egg. And some people theorize that the Watcher is Benjamin Sisko, but hey, Benjamin Sisko, even though he might be in 2024, he was in San Francisco. They're in Los Angeles. But anyway, the Watcher's definitely not Benjamin Sisko anyway, so this is a silly theory. Anywho, so 7 of 9, Rafi and Rios go to get beamed into Los Angeles. Now, what is their plan? Like, what were they thinking when they beamed people into the middle of a city center in the 20th century when Picard just really warned, oh, we gotta keep a low profile? Like, they should, like, it feels like they should have beamed them somewhere like in the basement or something, that they should have been more private. And why, maybe did they throw in some random line about how their sensors weren't working, they couldn't control exactly where they beam in? Because why did they all three of them beam into random spots, and why did Rios like beam into mid-air and like into the like a fire escape where he fell and hurt himself? Like, why did that happen? That shouldn't happen when they transport people. I can tell you exactly why it happened, though. So the plot could happen, so they could have the stupid plot with, well, to be fair, it's not a stupid plot, but the contrivance of how they got there was stupid, where Rios has to go to this hospital that is not really, it's like a clinic that's supposed to be for, illegal immigrants or other people hiding from the law, and then he gets, makes friends there, and it's obvious this character is going to become the main character for the season, probably a love interest for Rios. And they get busted by ice. I do kind of like that. I like the commentary about ice and how and I do like the that his communicators kind of lost now, and they're worried about screwing up the timeline. But I just don't buy even if they did throw in some bullshit line about how the transporters weren't really working, it seems kind of dumb to me that they just beamed them into random spots, and that Rios was beamed into midair where he freaking fell. Like, why? But I did think that the 7 of 9 where she beamed in, a little girl saw her and she's like, "Are you a superhero?" And she's like, "Don't tell anyone." That was cool. And I've been liking 7 of 9's appearances in this season, and how she sort of gained really a lot of confidence, and I like her sort of interactions with Rafi, and that but the thing when they try to convince that guard, "Oh, Kevin, let us go to the top," like, I don't know, it seems like they were trying to be like the Voyage Home, but only getting like halfway there, really. So I don't know, I'm becoming more skeptical about this whole season, because if it's all about them mucking about in the 21st century, it seems like Star Trek, when it always, like, the Voyage Home is the only time it ever did, like, we're gonna go back to present day today correctly. Every other attempt, I think, wasn't that good. Like, particularly the Voyager two-parter. Future's End, which I really didn't like that. I'm sorry. It really didn't work for me. This isn't as bad as that, I will say, so far, but it's starting to come off as that in terms of trying an attempt to try to be like Voyage Home again, and not getting there. But there are some interesting aspects of this storyline that give me hope, such as the mystery of what was going on. Again, I really hope it's not just Q decided to fuck with Picard, because if that's all it is, I'm going to be disappointed. There needs to be more to it than that. And then the mystery of who this Watcher is, because the whole plot of this episode revolved around them trying to find the Watcher. So who is this Watcher? If it turns out to be Guinan, again, I'm going to be like, that's boring. It needs to be someone a bit more interesting than that. Maybe it's Daniels, from Enterprise. I don't know. Who else could it be? Maybe it's the Traveler? Oh, that would be interesting if it was the Traveler, but it's probably not the Traveler. Who else travels through time that I'm thinking of? Anyway. The Watcher. Who watches the Watchers? Anywho. Alright, so here's the problem I have with the whole premise of the main characters of Star Trek Picard going back to present day 21st century. The problem with that is the characters, particularly with season 1 of Star Trek Picard, it was portrayed, the 24th century was portrayed too much like the 21st century. Like, the characters, the main characters, especially like Rafi, Rios, Girardi, you can even argue, and even other characters like Soji, they were portrayed too much like, they didn't feel like they belonged in 24th century Star Trek, or 25th century, I think we might be in now, but whatever. They felt like modern day characters. And this is something that a lot of modern Trek shows, they wanted to be more relatable to modern audiences, which is fine. I didn't have too much of an issue with that in general, but it makes the concept of these characters traveling back to present day less interesting, because they fit in too easily, especially Rafi in this episode. She didn't seem like, the whole enjoyment of Voyage Home was that it was a fish out of water story, that this is a really alien, weird environment. Kirk and Spock looked really out of place. You had Scotty going, "Hello, computer," and it was showing just how they couldn't relate to this time period, and that's where the humor came in, that's where the interest came in, where these characters of Picard, they felt like 21st century characters to begin with. So to put them in an environment, they don't seem out of place. You don't have the fish out of water element. They seem like they belong there. So what's the big deal? It loses the appeal. Anyway, so my rating for Assimilation, out of 10, I'm going to give this a 7, very good. Now, if you keeping track of my reviews for these Picard episodes, episode 1 of the season I gave a 9, episode 2 I gave an 8, episode 3 I gave a 7. So if you're seeing a trend here, it is down ticking, and I really think that is my opinion of the season. And that's what I was worried about when I saw the first episode. I was like, wow, this episode's great. But last season, season 1, when Picard had a really great first episode, just because the rest of the season didn't keep up with that quality. And that was my concern with this season, and that concern is proving to be justified. However, we're only 3 episodes in, so, and there are a lot of good seasons and a lot of seasons of television that will sort of dip a bit in the middle, but then get good towards the end. That wasn't my experience with Picard, but maybe season 2 will be more like that, more like a typical season where they're just having to get going here, and once they get going, the story will get better. But I don't know. I can hope, but I'm not counting on it. if I will say, I won't be very surprised if this season doesn't live up to what I was hoping would be based off of the first episode, but we'll see. Anyway, that is it for my review of Picard season 2 episode 3. Be sure to check out my channel as I continue to cover episodes of Star Trek Picard. Also, fans of my Discovery reviews, I will announce here that I will be doing a live discussion with my sister Alyssa over on her channel to cover Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery. That unfortunately, we couldn't do it until next Saturday, so that will be next Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over on her channel. I'll make an announcement on my channel later on that has the link, so you guys can join that. Anyway, so be sure to check out my channel as I cover all sorts of Star Trek stuff on my channel, as well as other shows such as Star Wars, The Clone Wars, The Expanse, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.